A former Dallas policeman and a grocery store owner, both accused of murdering Bryan Stout, were whisked into Judge Joby Brown's court this morning for an examining hearing. Former policeman John Singletary allegedly supplied the murder weapon in the Stout case, and Mrs. Helen Cundiff has been named by one of her employees as the actual murderer. Both were denied bond when first arrested last week. Today, Judge Brown overrode a prosecutor's plea for no bond and agreed to set $15,000 bonds on Singletary and another defendant, Lester Weber. Mrs. Cundiff got the same bond and was freed from jail this afternoon. Chief Prosecutor John Stauffer argued that some people might be eliminated if Singletary is freed on bond. But defense attorney Jack Hampton fired back that Singletary is not dangerous because he's not suspected of being the killer. Although the judge granted bond, Singletary says he can't pay it. After hearing routine testimony from several police officers, Singletary was hustled out of the courtroom and back to jail. Police are still probing for a motive in the Stout case, but a reliable source that's intimately associated with Stout says that Mrs. Cundiff and Bryan Stout had been violent enemies for a long time, that in fact last November, Bryan Stout ordered Mrs. Cundiff off his property and threatened to shoot her if she didn't go. Mrs. Cundiff has been named by Lester Weber as the one who pulled the trigger in the Stout murder. Martha McIntire, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, we have planned the computer and designed a method by using the computer which will provide the sheriff with current, almost instantaneous, accurate information that will tell him whether or not a prospective bondsman has posted his limit of bonds and therefore should not be allowed to post anymore, or whether or not that bondsman has any unpaid bond forfeiture judgments and hence should not be allowed to post any further bonds until those judgments have been paid. With this information, the sheriff will be able to make obviously a more intelligent decision and with more up-to-date information as to who should and who should not be allowed to post bonds.
Well, I think at the present time, the courts are being stacked against black and poor people. And when I say poor people, I mean poor whites, poor American Indians, Chicanos, Puerto Ricans, and all minorities in this country. And the clock of history is being turned back. And unless we have representative government, unless we choose a government that is not in contempt of the people, then we're going to really turn back the clock of history.
The 6th Biennial Conference of the Lutheran Church of America opened in Dallas this afternoon to a full house. This meeting, which will run through July 6th, is expected to draw between 1,300 and 1,500 persons, 681 of them delegates from all 50 states, 10 provinces of Canada, and Puerto Rico. There are two subjects to be touched on during this conference. One is ecology, the other is criminal justice reform. We talked this morning to Dr. Philip Wahlberg, who is president of the Texas-Louisiana Synod. Channel 8's Jack Hill asked if the action yesterday by the U.S. Supreme Court was in line with the thinking of the Lutheran Church.
Actually, the Lutheran Church in America anticipated the action of the Supreme Court on capital punishment. In 1968, our church, on its second attempt, adopted a statement against capital punishment. So our position would be wholly consistent with what the Supreme Court said yesterday in its decision. And the church has two primary foci of its mission. One we would term personal salvation. I think the other might be the well-being of the whole man. You can never minister just to the soul of a man, but you've got to be concerned about his body, his total environment, his well-being.
Featured speakers and presentations the first of next week will include Stuart Udall, the former Secretary of the Interior, and federal judge Leon Higginbotham, who is a member of the President's Commission on Causes of Violence and on Crime. From the Statler Hilton Hotel in downtown Dallas, this is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, we have OT Cannon, of course. If not yet a regular place. It's Tinney, a few other players there who've got a lot of speed. I personally just like to run around, and after this new ruling, I won't know until I actually get into a game against opposition who are also maybe a little bit confused as to how it will affect my own particular play.
Prior to this new ruling, you could divide the playing field into various areas, could you not?
Well, whenever we were on the attack, you could more or less count on our defense, which is the back four, coming right out to the halfway line. It now means they can only come up to the edge of the penalty box, which is going to mean more or less twice the area in which their offense can take up position as to what they used to be able to. They used to have to all come back to the halfway line. Well, now they only have to come up to the edge of the penalty box, which is the goalkeeper's area. So it means the playing area is going to be so much larger than it used to be.
Will it mean that the players are bunched more than within the penalty area?
It could mean the exact opposite. It could mean in between the two defenses, for instance, our defense and their defense, this is where all the room is going to be. And if you can create, if you didn't have room before, there'll be no excuse from now on in, because you're going to have all the room in the world in which to create goals.
Well, I feel like it's really a hard question. Fjordback has thrown well all year. Woods has come on strong right here at the last, and then Matson is doing his best in the last couple of weeks. So I feel like right now the man to beat would be probably Fjordback. He's been the most consistent all year long. Although any one of the three could be out over 70 feet, and probably will.
And yourself, how have you brought yourself along? You feel your best shot is still inside you?
Right, very much so. I've been having a lot of trouble the last couple of weekends when I went up to Northwest and Seattle and Eugene with a little hay fever or some kind of pollen in the air was really bothering me. I was sick for 3 days prior to the NCAA meet and threw 2 or 3 feet less than what I should have thrown. And I feel like I've been throwing real well in practice. Matter of fact, I got my lifetime best last week in practice, over 66 feet. And I usually throw 2 to 3 feet better. And if I can hang one out there, I feel like I'll be in the running very much so. I'm going to go up there with that intention anyhow.
What will you have to throw in order to make it?
It'll be possibly 69 feet could make it. You never know. I'm hoping, because 70 feet would be tough, but I think if I got everything right and got in the same position as far as in the ring that I did in high school, I can throw it that far, but it'll take a lot of adrenaline flowing, that's for sure.
Steve, you were Mr. Mayhew?
That's correct.
Mr. Rice? Mr. Orr? And Mr. Tucker? Thank you, gentlemen, for being so nice.
Thank you.
Come later, whenever it comes up.
Well, could Ms. Paget act as our secretary?
Fine. Whoever you select.
George, if you'll act as our secretary. Not as a councilman, but as an individual tax-paying citizen.
Currently, somewhat they've been more or less delegated to the different offices. Here in the future, we will have a centralized body to more or less control the different qualifications. In other words, the employees coming in now or possible employees, applicants, will have to meet certain criteria as far as to the qualification for the job. It will eliminate much of the political patronage type system.
It's all kind of like a voluntary strike. All Bell helicopter employees, 7,000 of them, have stopped work, and 6 Bell facilities are being shut down for 2 weeks, allowing all the employees to take their vacations at the same time. According to company officials, it solves the problem of production rescheduling due to key employees being off the job at different times when on staggered vacation timetables. And Bell workers can look forward to extra days off before the year is over. Bell announced today that since the July 4th holiday falls within the summer break, employees will be given additional days off during the Christmas New Year holidays. Only one question enters my mind. What happens if all Bell employees decide to go to the same place for their vacation? Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move at Bell Helicopter Plant in Hearst.
Let's talk philosophy for a moment now. You're here in this country as a nurse on a visa. There are some men across the street being called before a grand jury, people you say you don't know. They are in violation of the United States law if they've done what they are alleged to have done. Now, why are you, in net effect, risking losing your job to support them?
Well, there's a lot more involved, more so than gun running. Why? You have to ask the question, why are these men on this charge? Why are they supplying arms, if it is the case that they are supplying arms to the north of Ireland? I think there are a lot more Irish people, if they were in the same position, would do likewise.
You're saying that you would run guns if you could?
I'll not really comment too much on that. I'm saying a lot of Irish who would, and you can take whatever you like from that. But the point is this, that the American people must realize that Ireland is on the verge of civil war, that there is an Ulster Defence Regiment, which is an extreme unionist organisation, and they are armed, really, by the government.
And you think that your side, in effect, must be armed also?
We feel that they should be armed. I'm not, now when I point this out, that doesn't mean to say that I'm a member of an illegal organisation, which is the IRA. I can also say that I sympathise with them, and I sympathise with anyone who believes in civil rights, which the IRA do, and are trying. The IRA, the reason why they're militant is because they have found out that civil rights just don't happen in Northern Ireland. There's too much discrimination, and we have found discrimination here, unfortunately.
When much younger, I believed myself very astute, how I would fight if this anyone dared to dispute. Power the only thing that I would salute. Ruggedness, not knowledge, considered I one's best attribute. Only the strong survives, to me was absolute. As years went by, this attitude did transmute. Time to all power will inevitably dilute. Respect I a person, but never again a brute. The man who wrote that poem is Joe Smith. How long have you been here on death row, Joe?
I was here December 28, 71, I was here 10 years. I've been, July of this year, I'll be locked up 13 years.
13 years. And what's changed about you during that length of time?
My education, I've increased my education through reading, writing, studying. At the time I was arrested, I couldn't read, and I since learned to read while I was on death row in the Harris County Jail. Since I've been in the Department of Correction, I've had access to the library, prison library, and I have been able to increase my knowledge through the use of the books that they let us have. We are allowed to check out 3 books a week from the prison library here at Ellis.
So you're not just sitting there waiting to die then?
No, I'm not. I'm hoping and praying that someday that I will get out. And I think most of the people here realize that they are insufficient as far as knowledge is concerned, and while they're here, they are trying to increase their education. Several men here, I think 6 at the present time, have learned to read since being here on death row.
Joe, you said that you're hoping and praying to get out. Do you really expect to?
Yes, I do someday. I think I will. If the Supreme Court doesn't outlaw capital punishment, I still think that I will win a new trial on the merits of my case.
Would you like to guess what the Supreme Court's going to do?
No, I tell people when they ask me that I hate to divert any energy into trying to anticipate what the court will do. I'm just waiting, and in the meantime, I'm continuing to prepare myself in case I do go free.
Those who want to do away with the death penalty say that in its place we should have a sentence where you would serve the rest of your life in prison with no chance for parole. Do you agree with that?
No, I do not agree. I don't think we should take away a man's hopes. A man can make it as long as he has his guard and hopes. I heard an advertisement on TV where American people were saying, I'd rather be dead than red. By the same token, I think that a person would rather be dead than have to spend a naturalized sentence in the penitentiary. I think same reason I'm opposed to communism, I'm opposed to a naturalized sentence. Anything that takes away or deprive a man of his hope, his guard, I'm opposed to. I'm opposed to naturalized sentence.
Well, do you think you could serve out a natural life sentence in prison?
No, I can't. I don't think so.
What would happen to you?
Well, a naturalized sentence, I'll die in prison. That's the only end. That's it.
You think your natural life would be shorter if you were in prison?
I think it would. I think hope helps a man live. I think it adds something to him. I hear people who are sit down and wither away because they have lost hope. I think it will. I think it will cut in, draw my strength, drain me.
How close did you ever get to an actual execution time?
I came within 10 hours. I have had 22 stays of execution.
Your execution date's been set 22 times?
22 times, different times.
How do you prepare yourself to die?
I have seen, I think, 18 or 20 men go down, and you watch the routine that they go through, and at night you sit down and picture yourself going through the same routines, more or less pre-live, on up to actually sitting in the lecture chair.
Murder!